welcome to Turn Right Machine Works. My name is Keith. Today we have a new mail call job, and this is from Brian. And Brian is a system administrator by trade at North Dakota State University. And he called me up one day and was talking about this project that he has with his ATV. And they basically what we have in here is parts for his ATV track frame. The center section that supports the track off of one of the four units on his ATV. And he sent us one here so we can take a look at it, but we're proposing a mail call project where I go ahead and build up and then repair or remachine these supports here. So we're getting ready to go in here and take a look at it, and I wanted to wait and open up the box here in front of you so we find out what's going on. So let's cut into here and see what we got. He did. I have to laugh because he says, "I know how much you enjoy working on dirty, greasy parts, so I had the parts run through the wash booth at the local transmission shop." I appreciate that. Yeah, the other thing I enjoy is popcorn. At least we know that it's a safe shipping method. All right, so I'm gonna have to find something to transfer this popcorn into. All right, that should give us enough space here, hopefully, to work with this. All right, let's see. There's a pin. One of the I-beams. Alright, I'll probably take it in the other room there or outside and blow it off. And here's the other I-beam in there. I think that's all that is sent in here. Alright, I'm going to pretty well keep this intact because I'm going to send the popcorn back to you. Good packing, and it did get here safe, and that's the main thing. So we'll just get this put back in here. Doesn't smell too good when this stuff gets hot and melts. Alright, we got this in. We vacuumed out our popcorn there, blew off the rest of it, brought it in here, and we're looking at the pivot holes here for these pins, and you know, we can see quite a bit of clearance. Actually, we can measure some of this slop here. We got almost 50 thousandths slop in there. All right, and there was one O-ring that was stuck in here, so we got the basic idea that there was an O-ring creating a seal off of each side here. And these links, now the links don't seem to be worn as bad, but they do pivot slightly there, and every little bit of play actually starts slopping around on the whole linkage here. But these could be bored out and bronze sleeves. I've already looking at standardized sleeves that can be purchased, and you could change out the sleeves and when they do start showing signs of wear. Now, this surface right here, let's bring the camera in so we can take a look at that surface. All right, you can see the frothy color there, and you know, it almost looks like corrosion and stuff like that. I'm sure that every once in a while this probably had a little bit of road salt thrown up in here, and it's probably helped eat some of this away. Now you can see that amount of clearance that's developed there, and a little bit slight, but there are some there in the front as well. And over here on the other side, it's about a little less, but it still has some of that wear. Alright, so we can well build this surface up here and remachine these flats to give the width and hold that. These bores here, I would go ahead and we'll bore these down through for the size, press fit for the size of the sleeves. Now it's still up in the air, and I think I'd be almost inclined to go ahead and leave the O-ring groove in there, give them a little bit of play so that the O-ring is not too butt tight, but it will hold somewhat of a seal for reverse flow of water, splash, and that kind of thing. That's the worst one right there. Kind of reminds me of Resurrection. Got a little play in there? I think it got a little play. Alright, this far side right here is where it's worn into, pretty close to past that O-ring diameter right there. And we're trying to gauge the OD of the sleeves that we would be putting in there. And we're trying to get right at that 13/16 812 thousandths or so is the OD. And most of these will be right in the same thing, and we'll be able to run the standard O-rings right in there. Alright, we looked into these Zerk fittings. This is a cavity that goes through from that pin to that pin, and in between those two is this port right here, and this is the port that supplies the grease to this area right here with easy access. Alright, so we're going ahead and we're pulling out the Zerk here, and we got a little bit of grease there. And we're going to push down through there with an Allen wrench here. See how soft that is. And it does push down in there, and I see a little bit of pushing through both of those there. And that's fairly new grease right there. But it could have been just rust and corrosion and also too, the Zerk might be test out the Zerk there for a good flow anyway. But that looks like good grease in there. Let's check out the other one over here on the far side. Same thing there. So but Brian, these O-rings are pretty crispy critter too. They're not as pliable as they really should be, and I'm sure that there was a lot of corrosion down in there. But it definitely was. It was too late for grease with the amount of play and damage we have in here. And definitely the grease was not helping it. Now on these little swing arms that you got here, the connecting rods here, I see there's a fitting here, but I'm not understanding why there's not a Zerk fitting in there. That might help improve this wear on these pieces here by actually being able to put grease in there. I unscrewed this and I didn't see that any grease had been put in there in a while. And basically, I think your hunch is right. We can well build the side here and go ahead and line bore, or bore those down through there. Put in some replaceable sleeves, and we can do stock sleeve diameters so they can be purchased and replaced anytime you want. So anyway, we'll get on the horn there and we'll do some talking, and hopefully we'll get you to send us the other 3 there. And when Brian and I were communicating on the project here at the beginning, he sent me a couple photographs of showing me this thing fully assembled, and here they are. This is really a pretty good project. Mattracks looks like a good product. This looks like it's a really good piece of equipment, with the exception of using the bore of the housing as the pivot or bearing material. It is going to wear out. So what we're doing, and what Brian proposed me to take a look at and see if it's feasible, which I do think it's feasible, and I don't really think it's going to be that high dollar item here, and I could put in a little bit of my gratitude points there for doing a video on it also. But we reclaim these faces and go ahead and poke through here and make a replaceable bushing for them. This thing can be serviced basically forever, as long as you don't severely crack or break the part as a whole. So I think this is a pretty good project to follow through with there, Brian. So it's kind of up to you. Kick around some numbers and I'll get back to you. And the rest of you, interested in seeing a Mattrack have a modification for servicing bushings at the pivots and how I go about it, give me a comment. All right, get her done.